Good morning. I was supposed to wake you up or keep you awake, but I want to thank Liz Schuler for doing such a wonderful job. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Ricky, for that great introduction. President Stevenson, Secretary Treasurer Chilia, IBEW leaders, and all of you in attendance, good morning, and thank you for having me. I walked a little slow there because I love that song. It makes me feel like fighting. But then again, I'm Irish and I'm from Philadelphia, so pretty much everything makes me feel like fighting. But let me ask you a question. How many of you in this room, by show of hands, think you're in a fight for your members' health benefits? Raise your hand. Look around the room. Thank you. So there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is you're not alone. We're not alone. The bad news is, at least in this guy's opinion, it's going to get worse and possibly a lot worse. I travel this country talking to IBEW groups with your related employers, many of you in this room. You have health care plans and you have plans for your health care plans, which can't help bring to mind the words of that great American fighter and philosopher, Mike Tyson. I could leave it there, couldn't I? But I'm not going to, because he actually said this. He said everybody had a plan until I punched him in the face. And I'm sorry, but that's kind of a good segue. What I want to do today is talk to you about, at least in my opinion, I'm saying in my opinion things are going to get worse, and that's impacting you, and it's going to continue to impact you. I want to set a stage, and then I want to finish it by telling you how I believe, not for every one of you, but for many of you, the Family Medical Care Plan has been an effective solution for multiple reasons, which I'll get into, but I have the warning because this could get a little bit ugly. That's Bellevue Hospital in New York City in, I call it 1891. At that time, there were 7 known diseases, at least in this country, and only 12 medicines, all of which were plant or herb-based. By the way, look at the dress difference. The medical professionals in 1900, look at these outfits. And here might be why. Today, 2015, there are over 10,000 legally registered diseases, and you're ready for that? 561,000 pharmaceutical drugs. I'm talking about why it's going to get worse. Americans are spending more on health care now than ever before in our history, and yet our Surgeon General says we are the sickest generation of Americans to ever live. The United States is spending more on health care than every other country, industrialized country on the planet. And here's the top 4: Netherlands, Switzerland, Norway, and us, spending $8,745 for every American on health care. That's a national average. Some folks have it better, some have it worse. But I said it's going to get better. You know, there's only 2 multi-trillion-dollar businesses on the planet. And ironically, one of them, pun intended, feeds the other. Medical, pharmaceutical. Look at this number, $24,000 and change. That's the price for an average employer-sponsored health care for a family of 4, according to Milliman. Let's play with that number a little bit because I think it has some perspective. That's $2,055 per month on health care. Now, this is the national average. Again, you could be doing better, you could be doing worse. This is the average according to Milliman. $2,055 per month On a 30-year fixed mortgage on a $350,000 home at 4%, you're paying $1,671. So according to Milliman, the health care cost has eclipsed the mortgage payment in America. Or consider this, right here in Las Vegas, you could buy a Ford Focus SE Tuxedo Black Metallic for $17,500 versus $24,671. And the kicker here is you're buying that car maybe every 5 or 6 years. You're buying that health care every year. Leading cause of what's driving the cost of health care in America is chronic disease and conditions. What are they? The medical community, the docs, and in the hospitals and the doctor's office actually use that term. They're called bread and butter. In other words, they're annuities. And here's what they are. It's a long-lasting condition that can be controlled but not cured. I would argue with that, but not today. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, allergies, depression, obesity. They are bread and butter diseases, and they're important to us because, again, we're talking about it's going to get worse. Well, 7 out of 10 deaths in this country right now are due to a chronic condition. There's 321 million of us in America. In just 15 years, over half of us will have at least one of these chronic conditions. Many will have more. 86% of the health care spend is on these issues, chronic conditions. In 2014, that was about $2 trillion. Before the end of this decade, probably well before the end of this decade, it will be $3 trillion. And you ready for this? A third of it will be on pharmaceutical drugs. It used to be the health care spend on drugs was roughly 25%. Now it's racing towards 33%, or $1 trillion a year on pharmaceutical drugs. By the way, that's a football field a lot like the one my Eagles lost on last night. That's double-stacked pallets with $100 bills. That's a 757, and that's an 18-wheeler. That's $1 trillion. Double-stacked pallets of $100 bills. It's a lot of money on health care, on drugs. So Big Pharma, pardon me, and that's not a misprint. That industry has profits ranging upwards of 30 to 50,000%. That's not a misprint. And Americans, fortunate for them, are taking more drugs, you ready for this, than the rest of the world combined. In fact, in 2014, we had 4 billion retail scripts sold in America. And I don't know if you take drugs or not, but think about this. That's 12 prescriptions for every man, woman, and child in this country in a year. That's $1 trillion. Some on as many as 17 scripts. And here's the kicker. In the drug spend, it's the specialty drug spend that's rising the fastest because we're creating diseases every day. How many of you have a bad temper and will admit it? You're bullshitting me because you're IBEW organizers and leaders. You all have a bad temper. I worked with you. You all gave me a bad temper. I'm teasing kind of. But you know what? It has a new name, that temper of ours. Now they call it, you ready for this? It's called intermittent explosive disorder. So seriously, now that it has a name, it has a diagnosis, guess what else it has? A drug that you and I can take. Well, you're at the bargaining table, you don't want to take your drug and control that temper. I had business managers that said, I'm getting shit-faced drunk the night before I meet you because I want to be as pissed as I can be when I'm at that table. I got it. They taught me how to drink, too, the IBEW. And I've gotten damn good at it, unfortunately. Specialty drug spend, look at that. By 2020, that's 5 years away. It's going to quadruple. What was $87 will now be north of $400. It's going to get a little worse. The cost of those chronic diseases and the lost productivity, which means lost time and lost wages for our members, is costing America $1 trillion a year. By the way, I can't solve these problems if you're thinking that I have the answer. We have one solution we're going to talk about, though. Here I want you to pay attention to this because your Secretary-Treasurer, at least to me several years ago, predicted this, Sam Chilia. The percentage of employers moving to high-deductible plans and increasing the copay. Every one of you is probably seeing, hearing, or feeling this, but look at these numbers, they're startling. 85% of the employers in America have already done so or are contemplating both. High-deductible plan as the only option and increase the employee member share of the pay. 25% of them have already done it. These numbers just since 2012, that's not even 3 years, have doubled. And since 2009, they have tripled. This is not a trend that's going to lay down. This is a trend that's continuing. So think about these three things, and I'll close out the piece about it getting worse because I'm depressing myself. But it's undeniable that legislation, good or bad, and I'm not here to argue anything, it indeed has done some good things for people, but it also adds cost. Things like Affordable Care Act, Mental Health Parity Act, et cetera, et cetera. Spending more and getting sicker, and I think we've already talked about that, but that's a key because I will say this to you. That's a trend that is not only unsustainable for us in this room, that's a trend that's unsustainable for this country. It's simple math. And finally, our aging population. 10,000 Americans are turning 65 every day since 2010. Every single day, 10,000 of us, baby boomers, will turn 65. That will go on for 20 years. I have nothing against aging. We all aspire to get old. We're just in no hurry. Certainly beats the alternative. But the fact is, aging folks are more heavily dependent on a medical service. So perhaps it's getting worse. Here's what else you're feeling at the table, and Sam Chilia spoke to it earlier this morning. The Cadillac tax, which they're staring down the barrel at 2018. Most of those single employers, at least, are looking at a Cadillac tax. And look at these numbers. It's the third leading source of revenue under the Affordable Care Act. It will produce $87 billion in revenue for absolutely nothing in exchange. Your employers are feeling that, and that's why you're feeling some of the things we already spoke about, particularly the move to high deductibles. And by the way, the IRS now has entered the race and said, hey, you do a high deductible plan with an HRA or an HSA, we're looking at all of that as the cost of health care, not just the premium. So a high deductible plan can, in fact, be a Cadillac plan. So, we'll switch gears now. I want to talk to you about the Family Medical Care Plan, your national health care plan. Very quickly, it was established January 1, 2006. It's a Taft-Hartley joint trusted fund I'm sure you're very aware of, equally governed by NECA and the IBEW as trustees. And it's a cooperative effort to provide health care on an affordable and effective basis. And I'll say this to you, it's working. If we fast forward from January 1st of 2006, the Family Medical Care Plan now represents participants in 49 states and the District of Columbia. What I'm saying to you is this plan is mainstream. And I'll preemptively answer the question, it's Delaware. 157 IBEW local unions and their related employers have decided to vet and join the plan. And look at that, 226 single employers have signed agreements to participate in this plan on behalf of both IBEW bargained and non-bargained participants. Give you some of the quick numbers on the growth. In 2011, there were 4 new groups that joined. In 2012, it went to 14. In 2013, it went to 20 new groups. In 2014, it went to 30 new groups. In 2015, right now, 17 new groups have joined by the 1st of this month we're in. And that number is already stale. It's probably 6 or 7 have agreed to join already, 1 of 16. And I want to mention at least, because here's something important for you at the bargaining table. 4 Fortune 500s. We just got word while we were here that another one, Fortune 1000, agreed to come on 1/1/16, and we're currently being vetted by about 5 or 6 additional Fortune 500 companies. Why do I bring that up? Because I want to tell you the typical MO that you probably could tell me. You're at the bargaining table, they're looking to cut or gut benefits on health care at least, and you say, well, I have a plan, we have a plan. I keep thinking of Mike Tyson when I say that, but we have a plan. Would you take a look at it? And I will tell you, being involved in the vetting process with those 4 Fortune 500 companies, and the representatives, I'm sure, are in this room, you can ask them. I think it all began with the company saying, just to humor the union or maybe shut them up, we'll listen to it and we'll hear it out. And they were never intending to join the plan. Some of them came right out and told us, we're never joining this plan, it's not happening. And they vetted us, legal, executive, HR, benefit funds people, consultants, for months and months and months on end. Some of them came to visit us to physically kick the tires. I'm happy to tell you all 4 of them ultimately joined. And it wasn't because of you or us, in my opinion. It was because at the end of the day, they established it's real. They're not kidding. It's a real health care plan. And most importantly, we're saving a lot of money to do this, right? And that was the MO on all 4 of those, and it's the continuing MO on 5 or 6 more Fortune 500s, and including the Fortune 1000 that just joined. Here's a quick snapshot of the growth. On the left side is the number of members. On the right side is the number of dependents or lives in the plan. We are just about 80,000 lives covered under this plan in that geographic and demographic footprint I showed you a little bit earlier. So let's get to the key issue. Why is the Family Medical Care Plan an exceptional organizing tool? And I will say this, and some of you already know this. It's not right for everybody. You saw the footprint. You saw the number of local single employers, and there's a ton of people looking at us now. For some people, we're not right. We're not bulletproof and invisible. We are a very good plan, and we can make some things happen when it does work. I'm only encouraging you, if it helps in your organizing tool belt to put this tool in and use it, we're here to help you do that. I want to give you some things as to maybe why you would do that. We have 5 benefit options. I'll call them good, better, best, high deductible, and in construction we have a CECW plan, standalone. In the cases where we worked for the groups, most of them anyway, we either preserved benefits, improved benefits, or were a hell of a lot better alternative to what was being offered by the employer at that time. And that, to me, is the 3 reasons why the switches were made. And here's the big one. We put money back on the bargaining table for you to fight over. Probably nobody in this room, but I've heard some IBEW people tell me as I travel, we're so sick and tired of eking out a lousy settlement at the bargaining table only to put some or most or all of it into benefits as the price of milk and gas go up. We put money back on the table. And I'm not going to cite numbers. Talk to some of your peers. And I think you might be quite surprised at how much money in some of these cases was put back on that table. It gives you some room, even if you got to fight over it. In fact, we've been invited to a few of the fights, but we don't do that. I want to caution you, too, as you consider this plan, especially with an established group, You'll see some resistance from consultants, actuaries, attorneys, accountants, TPAs, HR people, benefit fund people in-house. And the reason you'll see that, to the extent of them lying about us, to put us down, to discourage a group from coming with us, is mainly because we stand to cost them their job or their client. Now, there are some, and I have to be fair, that really give an objective opinion. I've had consultants tell the group, you should leave and fire me because this is the right decision. You have to admire that. With the Family Medical Care Plan, and I think this is important to you, we're self-administered and self-funded. As of 1/1 of this year, we're self-administered, so IBEW and your partners completely control the admin of this plan. There's no profit incentive to mark anything up. What you see is the cost of what it takes to provide that benefit. What's that mean to you? It means this: we're not going to lowball you this year and come and whack you next year or the year after with a double-digit increase. Not to say we can't have a double-digit increase, but it's not the MO of the plan, and there's no incentive to do so. We work directly for you. So here's the kicker. It saves time. Every group that we've talked to, whether it's construction, single employer, doesn't matter, there are people on the union side, and there are certainly people on the company side that give time and human resource to the delivery of health care for the population that we talk about. Family Medical Care Plan is a soup-to-nuts solution. In other words, the only thing required is contributions get sent, and on the single employer side, a file gets sent to tell us who's covered and for what coverage. Other than that, we do everything else. So we free people, resource people in the organization, in the union, to focus on different things, better things, maybe business development, maybe other things for the company, but putting, again, money back on the table. Time saving is huge. Whether it's contractors or single employers, as I said, doesn't matter. And money. What I just talked about in time saving equates to dollars and cents to the company and, frankly, to the union, if you're very involved in the delivery of health care. And some unions have said, some IBEW locals have said, we want to keep our hand in this, and we're perfectly willing and able to do so. No problem. So there's that savings, but also there's the cost of health care savings. And we'll talk about that in a few seconds. Thirdly, the last piece to this, I think, advantage is national versus local. If you're a local health and welfare plan of, say, 5,000 or fewer members in any town USA, you are forever stuck with your demographics and your geographics. That could be good, that could be bad. But that's what you've got. When you step onto the Family Medical Care Plan, you're now stepping on a platform that includes 49 states, 80,000 lives, and growing. A huge benefit pool, claims pool, to level the experience. And I'll give you an example. If you have a localized plan, as I said, 5,000 members, and you have a multiple birth event, premature twins, premature triplets, that's a multi-million-dollar event. In a small plan, like I referenced, that's going to move the financial needle against you. So what do? You buy stop-loss insurance. And with the Affordable Care Act removing the caps, what happens to stop-loss insurance? If you're out there shopping it, you know what's going on. You're a captive audience, you have to have it. Our claims pool is such now that our consultants have said we can self-insure it, don't need to buy it. That accrues more money back to the participants in the plan. So yes, it's true sometimes. Greater discounts, leveraging this large national plan with our provider or providers, and we do it with every one of them. We're not beating them to death, but we're not getting taken either. That's kind of the deal. And I will suggest to you here on administrative costs, and I referenced several of these now, this is a guess, but I believe it's pretty accurate. If you take the administrative cost on the delivery of health care across the entire IBEW population, in every single local, in every single unit, in every single employer, you are talking about tens of millions of dollars a year. That's being paid out to third parties that could be kept in the till for member benefits. It's a lot of money. Talked about the risk pool. So the big insurers, as you probably know, are required each year by June to submit to their state the proposed increase for next year. And I did 2016, just picked on North Carolina, not a hugely expensive place to live, not a hugely union-friendly place. But here's what they submitted in June of this year. Coventry submitted a 30.9%. That's just in Carolina. United, 18.6%. Aetna, 15.5%. And you can look up your own state. They have to submit this. This is what they're going to go after in 2016. Remember this word sustainability, because that's not. And then finally, Family Medical Care Plan. I said to you earlier, it's working. 3.9% in 2016. There's no guarantee that stays there, right? But think about these numbers. Look at these numbers. And here's the big teller, I think. If you said to me, prove the point, the average increase for 11 years, that's through next year, because we already know next year, the average annual increase has been 5%, well below trend, anybody's trend. There's no guarantee that that stays there, but your leadership and your trustees are working hard to keep it there or even suppress it. I'll talk briefly about that in a moment. Sam, again, referenced earlier today about the Cadillac tax in 2018. Our multi-employer plan, because of provisions in the Affordable Care Act, give us the ability to push it out to 2028, potentially 2030, on our richest plan, Plan 16, or our Cadillac plan. That means something to employers. And the closer you get to 2018, the more meaning it's going to have. They're already doing the calculations, hence the move to high deductibles. So let me summarize it by saying here are what I believe are some of the reasons that you might consider putting this in your belt as you go to organize in the industry. There are multiple benefit options, as I said, 5 different plans depending on where you're at to suit different needs. Preserve and or improve member benefits current or to stop them from being gutted at the bargaining table. That's worth a look by itself. Putting money back on the bargaining table to fight about. There's no middleman. You are your own plan. Our staff, all of our benefit staff, works for the IBEW and for NECA. Save time, I think I talked about that enough. Greater discounts, and we won't stop with the discounts. Blue Cross once said to me, get north of 25,000 members, we'll throw the book out and we'll rewrite it. Guess who's got to get sitting down with Blue Cross and talk about rewriting a book? And the bigger this gets, the better it gets. And again, we're not trying to hurt anybody. We're just trying to help our own. More stable claims experience, I talked about that. Affordable and sustainable health care. And I would suggest to you that as especially younger folks, because I know a lot of younger folks are coming into the IBEW, but there may be some issues around retention. And younger people, I get it. They think they're bulletproof, they think they're invisible, but they're not. You and I know that. But a solid education and an organizing campaign about what real benefits are, what real benefits look like, and how important they are with examples of members who've needed them and they were there for them and their families, that's critical stuff to educate some of these people around. Because that's never going to happen to me or my family until it does. Then when it does, you're wishing you weren't in that high deductible plan, or you forgoed the benefit for something else, maybe on a paycheck. Non-bargaining participation in construction, if it's in the agreement, the employers can come in, and I can tell you there's a ton of them that want to, because they call us all the time. On the single employer side, there's the non-bargaining participation, but it can't exceed 10%. But let me give you an example of why that rule that is kind of hindering us sometimes has really helped us. There's a guy down in Houston you want to talk to who organized a group of 400 IBEW members in this plan. The company said we have 800 more non-bargaining we want to bring in, and we said no. Held our ground, said no. Frankly, I thought that was a mistake, but I wanted numbers. Your leadership said no. Since then, 4 groups of that 800, 4 groups, 4 units inside that 800 have been organized into the IBEW for health benefits, primarily. And at the end of the day, everything else walks. This is the reason that companies do this. It's not because they're in love with the IBEW. It's not because of me or us. It's because there's money on the table and it makes sense. The Cadillac tax is a huge one if you're talking to employers. They're staring down the barrel and time is flying. And to me, and this is one you would know best, but not only retaining people in this IBEW, but retaining employees for employers. That's an attractive element in my mind. And healthcare it isn't all of it, but it's a key piece of it. And if it's framed right, and in my opinion, sold right, that's a big key to retaining people, one, in this IBEW, two, for employers themselves to retain key people with solid benefits that they aren't getting gouged over, that they're not looking at filings for 20, 30% raises in 1 year's time. They're looking at hardworking trustees deciding how can we make this thing as affordable as possible and pass on as little as possible in increases so that we can keep these benefits solid for the entire population of the IBEW. That one makes a ton of sense to me. So it's simple, and I would say this to you. If you're an organizer and you're involved in a campaign, and you are, or campaigns, I would say this to you. Lisa Trunzo, our Director of Operations, is out at the tables. Many of you know her. Many of you are getting to know Lauren Loughran, who's a Director of Pension Services, but also working on FMCP, as am I. If we can help you in a campaign, call us, talk to us. Let's strategize over what makes the most sense in this given scenario. We will do that. We will walk and talk you through everything we have as transparently as possible. And you know what? At the end of the day, you might say, nope, it won't work. But it costs you nothing to talk to us but your time. By the way, contrary to what one or more of you may be thinking, I don't get a raise if you come or don't come into the plan. Do I, Lonnie, Sam? I don't. And that's not what it's about. It's an easy process. In fact, we have the forms out at the booth out here. We ask you for some demographic and geographic information on your population. We take that data, we generate a quote, we quote you across all of our plans, all 4 or 5 of them, depending on your single employer or construction. We give you all the ancillary benefits and the core benefits. You can mix and match, take them or leave them, other than health and RX, they're mandatory. Everything else is optional. Retiree coverage is optional. 0, 50%, 100% coverage for retirees, all affecting the bottom line. A couple ways to do this, but you can come out and see us outside. You all know where to find us, I know that, so I won't belabor that. And finally, what we were asked to do with the Family Medical Care Plan was this. I think it's an outstanding tool. It's a matter of you getting to know and understand it and see if it works for this campaign or that employer or this group. And as I said, we pledge our support to do whatever we can to help you do that, to kind of move that off your plate and help you fill in those blanks so you're working on some other blanks. But here's what we were told by your trustees and your IBEW leadership. Here's what they said they wanted. They want the best health care plan available by providing increasingly cost-effective health benefits, and I think we've demonstrated some of that today. And again, where we've been is no promise of tomorrow, but the bigger we get, the better we get, that's for sure. Service-driven, we have the best plan and the best price, and our service stinks. You're going to toss us out the door because your phone's going to blow up, and that can't happen. Although it does happen once in a while, I have to tell you, we're far from perfect, but we're very good at recovery. And again, talk to your peers who are in this plan and see if that's not the case. Finally, and this is where I think that the future is, it's an outstanding idea for your IBEW to aggregate this number of people and potentially many more into a voluntary national health care plan to deliver cost-effective health care. Makes great sense. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's enough. I don't think it wins the day. It's certainly going to level cost and help us contain future increases. But this third one here, innovatively managed, and here's where I said earlier, we work directly for you. It's our day job to do benefits. We do nothing else. We have the ability to vet out the innovation and the creative ideas that are hitting the street today because of the healthcare crisis and pick and choose the good ones that are going to do two things. Enhance that delivery of cost-effective health care and do so in a way that provides world-class benefits, right? World-class services at lesser cost. Now combine that concept with the concept of aggregating a massive group of people and leveraging that size to your advantage. I think that is where you win the day on health care. And just quickly, I don't have the time to get into them, and I'm done. What am I talking about? I'm talking about centers of excellence. You need your heart fixed, go to Cleveland, right? You need cancer issues, go to Rochester or Johns Hopkins. Telemedicine. These are all things your trustees are looking at now to implement and deploy into this plan. They're not resting on size alone because we don't believe it's going to get today. Wellness programs, strategically engineered wellness programs, virtual best doctors and programs like that. I don't have the time to get into these things, but these are exciting, innovative things that are going on out there, and there's many more. So finally, I want to again say thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you today what I did. I hope it wasn't too much doom and gloom on the front end, but it is what it is. And I think it's undeniable. I didn't create this, it just is what it is. I think you've got an outstanding opportunity to use this plan as a tool, and you've got a team of people in Rockville, Maryland, in Ringgold, Georgia, and Salt Lake City ready, willing, and able to help you do so. Please never think we're too busy. We work for you. And believe me when I tell you, Lisa Lauren and all of us and myself, we're damn proud to be working with you and for you. And we so appreciate the opportunity to do so and look forward to continuing. Let us know if we can help you. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your time and attention. Very good job.